What a win, Coley. Like, it wasn't pretty. France shed load of mistakes, but we won. We found a way. England had done it. Our campaign is underway. The title dream is still alive. How are we feeling, Coley?
Good, Ben. A win is a win. Don't care what the French brought out. Don't care. England win. One of the best teams in the world. Before the game, it's all about, I was at Twickenham. There's a lot of apprehension in the crowd about potentially, France being, well, they are really good, but scoring 80 points and blowing England away and blah, 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 blah. And after that first half, even the first sort of 20 minutes went 0-0. Every second it went further into the game like that, it more favoured England. And France dropped the ball, but, England hit the post against New Zealand. So these things happen. And, England, fair play to them. They stuck at it. I thought the changes, Steve, I think the sort of tactics that the team were trying to play, probably more, we won't go into it too much now, but like playing in France's half, being a bit more sort of kick return, strike focused on that. And I thought it worked. Well, obviously it worked. They won. And I thought the change in the team, playing with two tens, two playmakers really suited England and actually sort of stretched the French more than I'd have thought.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that. Firstly, though, I just felt like England needed that win so badly because I really felt like yesterday was a bit of a defining moment where had they lost, it's so hard to then recover. You got 2 weeks to mull over it again. You're 2 losses in a row. You're getting ready for Scotland in the Calcutta Cup, and that's a long 2 weeks to think about it. But it was just, we needed that. England needed it. The fans needed it, and we got it. And that's the most pleasing thing, which actually brings into the question of from Claire, one of our listeners, and it says, were England good or were France bad? And I'd say if you're in the change room of the French team, you're going, how on earth have we lost that given the amount of opportunities we created? And at half time, you're sitting there as a French player going, boys, we can't keep missing these opportunities. And as an English player, you are literally on cloud nine. You're like, I don't quite know how we did it, but we did it. How good, plenty of guts, plenty of just hanging in the fight. And yeah, they squandered chances, but as an English player, you're literally like, oh, it's almost like relief as well because of the pressure that's been mounting on them. So you've now got 2 weeks to build up to the Calcutta Cup in like where the mood is totally different in camp, where it's positive. You've got that win. You've given yourself a bit of breathing space from sort of, I suppose, external pressures and viewpoints. And now you can just all like go in and start building on that, like getting that win. Like, we've been having those 20 minutes lulls and letting teams in where almost like France had the lull and let us back in. And it was so good to see them capitalise on that. Just find a way, mate. And the mood will be totally different. If you go back to last year, Coley, of course, you were involved. You had that Calcutta game in Scotland, didn't you? Which you'd lost. And then you had 2 weeks to mull over it before you had Ireland at home. And England produced a great performance that day. But the difference between having that 2 weeks to almost get emotional performance because of losing that game last year against Scotland and coming out against Ireland, to the difference between, like, you still want the emotion because it's going to be Scotland at home, but like you're in a good like spot mentally and sort of morale-wise.
Yeah, well, I think there's sort of a fair bit to unpack there. Did England need the win? Yes, I think the fans, but I don't think, to be honest, speaking to the fans yesterday, I don't think they were expecting England win, but I think they wanted a performance as in one that showed they could compete. They're prepared to lose, but like, because obviously France are really good, but they didn't want to lose by just, giving France the ball. And I actually thought England, you say France made a load of mistakes, but England went and attacked the game. I think with the tries they scored, the intent they showed, like I say, I think the way England play, it has to be sort of set piece defence, and then you take your chances on either a kick return strike or a set piece strike or something like that. You're not going to probably go through 75 phases of possession. I know they did towards the end, but like, you know what I mean? They're not going to be this possession team, but like Scotland or Ireland that go through phases, pull out the back, a bit like France in the first half, going edge to edge, forward out the back. I don't think that's England's game. But when they did have opportunities to strike, they took them. And I say they had smartly worked moves. The line-out peel for, I think, Baxter's try, and the play for Daly to score off. They're well-worked moves. They're obviously off the training field, but England have to take those opportunities. And to be fair, they did. But they also had the sort of the courage to actually roll the dice and go, in those big moments of the game, we're going to take this chance and we're going to do this. So you can't take anything away from England from that, despite what the French did. And as you say, in the change room, yeah, England, you take the win, like no matter what, like because England say in the autumn, we didn't catch kick-off, it bounced off a post, you lose a game, catch kick-off, lose a game. Like the French drop, I don't know, 50 fucking catches, don't care. You know what I mean? Like that's their problem. Our problem is we won. Now, in the aftermath, you're like, yeah, we've won. This is brilliant. Probably gets the media off the coach's back and that kind of stuff for another 2 weeks, which is, some of it's uncalled for. I think some of the comments that have been coming out this week about Steve and his team, I don't think are particularly helpful or useful to anyone. But it's good that England put a performance. And B, I think England at the same time, in that camp, yes, you've won, but I'm pretty sure today the coaching staff and the players all sort of look at it and go, yeah, oh fuck, the French passes didn't stick. What can we do to, next time we play, how can we be better? It's not just like, we've beaten France, yay, put your feet up, have a cigar. It's actually, we beat France with a bit of help. What can we do to continue improving? And as you say, that morale, I think, comes from the game plan worked. You know what I mean? Like the stuff you've worked with in training. We've said it before on the pod, but like if you have when you get a result, a victory like that against a better team, or I say a supposedly better team, like it allows you to believe in what you're doing on the training field, in the game plan. When you lose to Ireland, sometimes there's questions asked like, oh, are we playing the right way? Do we need to do this, that and the other? But when you actually win a game like that, or Ireland, or even France last year, you believe in what you're doing. And not so much at England, but in club as well, everything. You believe what you're doing. And with that, belief builds and confidence builds. And people who, sometimes when you lose, I'm not saying this happened in the England team, but there are murmurings, aren't there? Whether you're not playing or you're on the bench, or I should have got more, I should have got on, we should have done this, we should have done that. Whereas when you lose, those doors are open. Whereas when you win, so that all shuts down and basically people go, no, we're on the right path. We know what we're doing. Let's double down and do it more, which is what you want to see now moving England, moving forward.
So do you think the narrative's changed now, Coley, for England? Or do you think they're one loss away for it going back to how it was just before this game, where the pressure was piling on?
Do I think the narrative's changed? Maybe for 2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been positive. We see through it. But like, I think in the outside media, especially look at the stuff that's come out this week, about Steve, about how England play, about what they do. Like, it's obviously out there. And I don't think one win changes that, because I think people, I think for a couple of days it does, but then probably the people that were slagging it off before, they turn around and go, oh, France dropped the ball 40 times. Like, you know what I mean? England should have lost. And actually, it will go back to that narrative and they'll keep pushing that until England win probably consistently, as in Scotland next week. If England lose to Scotland, in 2 weeks' time, then the media probably will happily pile on again, because I think that's what they've got there, the bit between their teeth at the minute. Whereas England win against Scotland, I think the narrative, it quiets them down for another week. But the narrative is, rightly or wrongly, I think it's out there. And I think people, out there that England, blah, 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 blah. And you read it all before the game. Random people coming off the top rope, attacking like the coach's personality and all this kind of stuff. So it's out there. And the only way England can really dampen it down is to keep winning. And that's what they got to do. By hook or by crook, keep winning. Because I think people want to slag off the England rugby team. We've had it when we're in camp, haven't we? You almost feel like the world's against you. And it's like, even you beat France, it'll be, yeah, everyone joins in the celebrations. And then 2 days later, it'll be like, well, you shouldn't have won. You shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. And that's the narrative. And that's what people want to, that's what sometimes people want to press. And that's the frustrating thing. But, you also have to see through that. As players will see through it, the staff will see through that. And, hopefully us on this podcast will see through it, man. Right,
let's talk about how they did actually clinch it, Coley. And as you mentioned before, the two playmakers, that was important. Now, we mentioned when I did my team announcement why Marcus might be at fullback, and that's because France kicked so long. And one of the things that France did was kick long. People were like, oh, surely they'll just kick short now. Well, no, that's what they do, and that's what they did. So they kicked long. Marcus was able then to launch, and it brings their entire pack forward, almost create a breakdown, so they have to run forward. England would go 1-2 phases max, put it on their foot, turn them again. They'd have to run back, all the way back. They'd then lump it back. And it was almost like this kick cycle, this kick structured cycle of return serve. But it's the way that England did it. Sometimes Marcus would simply kick it straight away, but often they try and run back, bring the French forward onto it, create a breakdown, go a ruck, create a contest again. They'd have to run back. They'd have to go a few phases. And that's kind of this cycle that just continued and continued. And you looked at the amount of times where England did short little kicks on the edge. Now, I would say they probably overplayed their hand a little bit on this, but they're playing conditions. France would weren't being able to deal with the slippery ball and they put it on the toe. But I felt like there was a couple of times, especially in 22 attack, where we probably just put it on the toe when I felt like we could have built pressure through ball in hand a little bit. But they certainly did that. And then you look at the last 20 minutes with guys like Jamie George coming on, who I thought he just had the bit between his teeth, mate. He literally looked like, right, this is my team still, and I'm going to show you how to get over the line here, boys. I thought Ollie Chesham was impressive when he came on. Just naturally a line out forward anyway, so that helped England. But he was carrying the ball, gave us a bit of punch, which was great to see. And you look at, arguably, we had a strike play, which was ironic. Because in this strike play, we just did a 4-man line out. We sort of got to the width through little tight passes. And then we came back with that arrowhead, hit the middle forward, nice and tight and condensed attack, out the back to Finn Smith, who squared up, hit Jamie George. He goes clean through, gives it to Curry. And although it's a strike play, it was just refreshing to see England just structurally have a bit of deception in their attack, have some ball movement. Now, next phase comes around the corner. Unfortunately, Marcus drops it, controls his feet there, just use it as a pivot. And what I mean pivot is catch past the edges on for them. So it's just a bit of composure there. But it was just refreshing to see some structural shape. And even when England had an advantage at one point, there was little offloads. Jamie George turning his back, lifting it up. Another little offload happened. Now, that was an example where Slady actually ends up chipping it away, trying to do the little cross kick. But we had advantage, a shot to nothing, but I'd still rather us hold on to the ball. But there was promising signs, there was snippets of some nice ball movement structure. And I think that's what Finn Smith gives you. And Marcus at fullback is that two playmaking abilities, as you mentioned early on, Coley. It allows us to distribute more. It's still a little bit clunky. It's still not as smooth as ever. We still kicked the ball a shed load of times yesterday, but that was the game plan. We said that would probably be the game plan. And the conditions favoured that type of style, and you drag France into this sort of arm wrestle. But that's the key. Can they build on those sort of little passes, that last 20 minutes with a bit of tempo, a bit of ball movement, and can we have that from, a bit more consistent throughout? Still playing the territory, still being pragmatically smart out of our half, but being a little bit more like we're coming at you when we are in their half. Because that was pleasing. We looked dangerous at times.
They're going to be pragmatic inside their own half. I don't think, you don't want to enter into the sevens contest, but you look at the first try England score, France kick it, and actually I think Marcus is in the back foot, but he's got Ben Earl with him, and I think there's a few times they dropped Ben Earl back. But they let Ben Earl sort of carry, beats the first defender. The breakdown's then cleared by... He gets about sort of 20 metres in field, I think, cleared by two forwards who are retreating. But then you've got Marcus and Finn on their feet. Finn Smith then goes open side, Marcus short side. They give the ball to Marcus, he skips for a tackle, tries offloading it, I think Pierre Barry knocks it on. So England ended with a scrum. Off the scrum, they sort of, I think, play Fremo over the top of Jalibert. Fremo was outstanding yesterday, I'd like to say. He carries over the top of Jalibert. I think they play a couple of phases. They try and... Do they kick on the corner? And then... They end up with sort of 5 metre. I think Finn Smith sort of kicks it through, but they end up with a 5 metre breakdown. Then everyone piles the breakdown. It's about a couple minutes before, but everyone piles the breakdown, and France basically have all the back rows backs in that breakdown. England counteract the breakdown on the French line, and they basically lose all their backs and back rows in this breakdown. Dupont keeps it on infield. I think he should go off there. I think Ben Elbacks plays it to Slady, and Slady basically runs on a 45 for about 40 metres across the field because he's just got the French front five in front of him. I think they play... Mitchell offloads it, or they offloads to Fremo again. I think they give it to Mitch. Mitch grubbers it through, and then the French Lucid comes sliding in. A great cover slide, I'd like to say. Full plaudits for that. He then took the next full 5 minutes to fully recover because he had a scrum on his own goal line. And then England play off the thing. I think Fremo carries. Willis around the corner, Freeman again, pick and go, and then basically Ollie Lawrence gets the ball. A bit of a bounce pass, but gets more score. But that all came from England. Kick return to the counter-attack, and I think having the structure of, you say, two playmakers. I think England, having watched England today, having two 10s, it's been crying out, I think, a while for having two playmakers. I think every team needs sort of two distributors, but just having Finn and Marcus on the same thing, whether it's, you can rip it down a short side, whether it's defence, you don't know where the ball's going because you've got two 10s, and yeah, it's a bit clunky at times, but actually, it gave England so much more options, put it that way. And when Marcus does make a line break and carries, Finn Smith's there to then can play the ball away, etc., etc.
Let's talk a bit more about the Smiths combo. And it's clear that England like to have two playmakers. Now, when George Furbank returns, of course, he's a playmaker. That's his, I suppose, strength.
When we say by playmaker, it sounds simple, but I think it's playmaker and its ability to run the ball, but it's just having someone comfortable at first receiver or even slightly wider outside that can call a play. And sometimes teams get stuck on, say, 15-metre line or 15 metres width or 20 metres width from the touchline. And if you have two playmakers, distributors, like Furbank's very happy at stepping up to the first receiver's name, ripping down a short side, playing to the edge, and it gives the team a target, so then you can fall back into your shape and play. Sometimes if your 10's in that breakdown, some backs sometimes don't want to take it. It seems a simple job, but it obviously isn't, because otherwise everyone would do it. So we talk about sort of two playmakers, but it's more just two distributors and guys that are willing to sort of move the ball, isn't it?
Absolutely. The thing is they've got to be able to organise within shape. And, when you only have one, let's say, organiser / playmaker, they're having to do so many moving parts. And it sounds as simple, but you'd be amazed at how many communicators don't actually organise shape, out the back of shape, know what they're looking for. And I think when you have two, firstly, that kick return point goalie, my gosh, you've come a long way in attacking Nous, because you're right, Benel gets the middle, it gives you two playmakers either side of the ball straight away, which means France, instead of England recently, they haven't been sort of two-sided attack, there've been many sort of same way attack, but on kick return, you're right, it was a clear strategy to be able to go both ways, and that's either shift it with balls, but of course also turn and plug corners and things like that. It makes it very hard for their backfield then to cover. But in terms of the playmaker, as you just alluded to, it is the ability to organise shape, organise the back end of shape. And then once you actually get the ball, it's getting it to edges. It's finding little avenues in the wider channels so that your shape can fall back and you can play the 1-3-3-1 system. And that is those pods of forwards across the field. And it then sort of all sinks in. As I mentioned, with that 4-man line, that was a perfect example of where that 1-3-3-1 system works with, an arrowhead out the back, then another two. If you look, there'll be shape out of the back of that with a ball player. So it was very, very good. Now, the big challenge is going to come when Scotland have a different kick strategy to France, is how do you then work that out? Because France always kick long and on. That's their motto. That's what they do. They were never going to change that. But teams will probably kick short on Marcus if he remains as fullback. And it'll be interesting that England clearly need another ball player, because at the moment, the midfielders, we aren't getting like ball distribution from those guys. I thought Ollie Lawrence was very good again yesterday, taking on his performance from the weekend against Ireland and backing it up again this week. But just that ability to have playmakers key. It's just whether they stick with it, because it's crying out that we need it. But in the moment, we select depending on who we're playing. So I feel like moving forward, I'd like to see those two get another crack at it. People probably noticed yesterday at times, like Marcus stepping in at first receiver, and people might look at it and go, oh, he keeps thinking he's playing 10 and all that. No, like when you have two playmakers, and it's the same when Owen and George played together, and certain other guys across the globe, when you look at the Barrett brothers and in New Zealand and things like that, is like, it doesn't really matter if one slots in at 10 and one slots out the back of other shape, because you're still doing the same role. So I think sometimes people probably looked yesterday and well, Marcus is stepping at 10, and yeah, that's fine, because Finn Smith will be out the back of the other shape. It's just totally natural that sort of needs to be almost synergy of both can do each other's role when it's multi-phase attack.
Yeah, so Marcus didn't have the best day off the tee. Finn Smith took the winning points at the end of the game. We've got a question from Emma. She says, who will have made that decision to change kicker? Steve, Marrow, Marcus or Finn?
Firstly, it's no shame in missing some kicks. So, the humidity of Marcus probably said, Finn, take the next few, or, take the next one. That dialogue's always going on between goal kickers and captain. I don't see it coming from the coach's box, if I'm honest. I don't see a coach running on and saying, Kevin Sinfield looks after the kickers. If anyone's going to make that call, potentially he might. He runs on with a tee. He has that dialogue. Maybe Marcus, after the second miss, or third miss, sorry, he might have said to Kev as he chucked him the tee, so mate, let Finn take the next one. So you just don't quite know how that unfolds. But at the end of the day, Marcus, as long as they've won, that's all that matters. Like, he's team first. So, if it means that Finn needs to take over the kicking duties, because he's missed a few, then so be it. I think it's just a positive that England have a luxury that they've got place kickers that can, if one's having a little bit of an off day, the other one can just step in and do it. So it's no biggie. It's just an example of if someone's not quite far in, that one can step in and cover for him. So That's all it is. Marcus will come back and I'm sure start nudging them again, and I'm sure there'll be a conversation into the next game if they're both to start of who actually kicks from the off.
So Ben, Finn Smith was awarded man of the match, but personally, I would have handed it to friend of the podcast, Tommy Freeman, who I thought was outstanding. But yeah, what were your man of the match thoughts?
Yeah, I thought Freemo was very impressive. And let's just talk about his try, for instance, Coley. So England had conceded and they kick off straight away. Tommy Freeman just gets in behind that pod, catches the ball, great athleticism, getting in the air. I mean, kickoffs have become a real contest now with the new laws and everything like that. Everyone's kicking short to try and disrupt. Anyway, Tommy gets up there, wins it. And this was where like the sort of last 30 minutes, 20 minutes was literally you score, we score, you score, we score. But anyway, off he goes, off he sets. England go a few phases. He even steps up at 9 at one point, mate. I think he plays 9 twice. And England are sort of rumbling. Twice, exactly. He then leaves after he's played 9. He then gets back onto that right wing and he's out of shot. Like he's right on that wide channel. And England aren't going, I suppose, anywhere really. They're sort of trying to look for scanning for an opportunity, looking for a chance. And this is where it's just that Saint synergy is... Dupont actually leaves that left edge. So he's got LBB and then it's Dupont. Finn Smith is slightly to the left of that ruck. And Dupont, like any good back does, he tries to, if the teams look like they're going the same way, you empty that edge and you try and get on the end of that defensive line to shore up your numbers. Now he leaves that edge. Finn Smith notices this. Yeah, great scanning. He sees Dupont leave that edge and Ramos is following wherever 10 is, Ramos follows. So he knows that right edge is free. Fremo's got himself in a great position to then chase and it's simply Saint synergy. Fremo's got his hand up and this is where Finn Smith and that the joy, the fact they play to each other. As soon as he puts hands up, Finn Smith knows exactly what he wants. And that is put the ball in the air and give me a shot at winning it. So Finn Smith bounces back against the ruck, puts a lovely weighted kick just behind LBB's shoulder, which is very hard when you're backtracking. Tommy Freeman's obviously running onto it. LBB's sort of running back over his shoulder to try and get it. So it favours Tommy, but he still had a lot to do. And it's like NFL style, boom, off the floor, 2 hands above his head, great take. And then the strength to kind of sort of finish it as well, because he still had a little bit to do when he got it. But it just epitomised, like, he was very, very impressive, Tommy Freemo. But just that work of winning that kickoff, like quick playing 9 a couple of times, getting on that edge and then looking for work. Like, where can I expose France? Where's the opportunity? Him and Finn Smith's that knowledge of each other's game, puts his arm up. He knows exactly what he wants. Dupont's emptied that edge, so the space is there and just really well executed weighted kick. And then Freemo having the athleticism to go and finish it. This was the big thing about Finn Smith, about the debate, but he brings more people into the game. So you lose more of a threat, but he brings others into the game. And Tommy Freeman, you saw the Tommy Freeman that we want, which is hands on the ball, making things happen, looking for work. And he hasn't not been looking for work. He's always been trying to look for work. But again, it's just that ability to bring others into the game, which is sort of Finn's strength. But then you lose that ability to bring that gold dust that Marcus does. And it's sort of, you're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, really. But yeah, I just thought Freemo had a lot of touches. The more touches we give guys like that, the better, because England are dangerous on the back of it. Coley, I want to talk about the POM squad. Obviously, Africa have the bomb squad. We're going to call it the POM squad, as a very witty listener wrote the comment on our feed, and we love it. So we're going to stick with that. Jamie George, let's talk about him. We touch on Ollie Chesham, but let's talk about Jamie George. It's been a tough time for him, mate. Gets taken the captaincy away from him. He also then does his hamstring. You're not sure how when he's going to be back, but he got out there, and I just thought, like, he was just leading it. And that experience again, Elliot Daly was another guy, Finn Baxter, with a little try. But I just want to touch on Jamie because, he would have been in a tough headspace, having lost the captaincy, you want to be out there and do it, then having a hamstring injury. But I just thought he just slotted straight in and just showed his class. Yeah,
so yeah, Jamie inserted straight into test match, the line out, that's his main role, obviously, but that stabiliser when scrum penalties. Chesham, I think, added to the line out there, but then Jamie George makes, I think his first involvement's basically it's a really good clear out in midfield, which springs England in attack, and there's another one later on where, he takes the ball off, I think it's Finn Smith, and basically makes a sort of 10, 50 metre break up the middle, which then gives England momentum to attack. I thought he was really classy. I think that's really good. And I think, speaking to people at Twickenham yesterday, it's like there's a lot of sort of narrative around England's bench and, blah, 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 blah. But I think yesterday, which I took personally, Ben, but yes, I think England's bench added, and I think, it was used wisely. I think Baxter got on the field earlier than probably he has done previously. And I think, the coaches did a good job. They didn't use all the bench. I think Chandler Cunningham's out and get on, and Randall didn't, but it was smart use of the bench in regards to when to put people in, and the impact they had.
It wasn't their game, though, to come on, was it?
No.
It wasn't their game to come on.
Well, Mitchell's in the rhythm. Mitchell's in the rhythm of the game as a 9.
Exactly.
He's not running out of gas. You don't need to chase the game, and he did that really well. And I think similar with the back row, he had...
Well, Ben Curry, mate, let him go to work at the Jackal. That was the game. That was the game.
Goes to the breakdown there. The breakdown, you had 19 turnovers from, I think Sage Inside says there's 19 turnovers. Like, they were going at the breakdown. They're making it a fight on the field, and they were slowing France's possession down. And it kind of became that England almost didn't need carriers. I think Ches came on and carried, Jamie George came on and carried. So they didn't need extra carriers. They needed that dog work on the floor and, rely upon those set pieces. The set piece penalty, which, Baxter Hayes, Jamie George which got him in the corner for the maul, for the peel, which they executed really well. And that's Baxter's try. But yeah, and I think that, it was smart use of the bench. And I think also, but the thing as well, I've been thinking about this with the bench. But with England's bench, it's got a lot of rap, like coming on and losing the game. But actually, I think someone look at the mistakes in the games. It's not been the bench that have made the mistakes. It's actually been the starters that have gone the distance, because it's such test match rugby, so fatiguing. Like, remember South Africa? I think was it Sladen Earl missed the tackle on Delande that basically ran 60 metres up the field. So it's an attritional game. And I think England actually, the new defensive system they've got is a bit less energy sapping. So I think they do have the legs at the end of the game. Mitchell went the entire distance. I think Daly got on for the finals of 5 minutes, but a lot of those backs went the distance and they didn't look fatigued. They didn't look tired like previously. Sort of like South Africa, they were not falling off tackles with 20-10 to go. They were staying in it. I think there's probably I know they conceded points, but actually having the ability to be fresh and at the end of the game pull the trigger shows you that England might be conditioned a bit differently. I
want to just go to that final try and break that down. So France had obviously invited us in many times, given the fact that they, when the Sage Insights was 19 handling errors, even from the great man Dupont, 19 turnovers when you look at the insights. But that last final play, so France knock it on, and then Mitch does a little attacking kick. And when you kick the ball away, that is, of course, advantage over. So you could almost sense that everyone's like, oh, like they kicked it away. Now Ramos gets this ball, and Penaud kind of just watches him do his thing. He needs to be so much more urgent getting in there. However, it's a great chop tackle, and then Bernal's over that ball, and so is Curry. Bernal's in a great strong position. We win the penalty. Outstanding. So England's chance. Can we nail it? And absolutely we can. So kick to the corner. The first thing is, Coley, it's a great maul set up. Like the maul is nice and long. And what I mean by that, the ball's available to be played. And we get some momentum in the maul. And that means the backs have to condense and be tight to the French backs. Dupont's defending at 10 at this point, but they have to be tighter to the maul because they're getting sucked in because England are edging forward on it. Now, most teams run this play. It's a real stock play. And we've spoken about lots of time in the pod where it goes 9 to 12. 13 on a short line outside 12. 12 runs nice and square. You try and sit down the both midfielders. Ball goes out the back to 10. You have the winger on a shoulder ball and you have 15 splitting out on the overs. And your key is you're trying to isolate the winger. You're trying to make 13 and wingers disconnect, because if LBB comes in on Elliott, you play the face ball across to Marcus Smith. All right, and then Ramos has to close and you've got an overlap. It's well ran, but it's only well ran on the principles of this. And this is the key, and England do it, is you have to get 12 versus 12. So France gets sucked in tighter than they want to be. And because of that, the width for the pass is perfect. Henry Slade can go 12 on 12 and sit Mofana down. Now, had France kept their width and the maul not being good, like Dupont could probably get to 12, and then 12 takes, so 10 takes 12, 12 takes lead 13, and then 13 spots 10 out the back, winger hits 15, and we're just everyone's man on. But because of it, England get 12v12, boom, and it's just well executed. Out it goes, pull it out the back. LBB has got a decision to make. Does he jam on Elliot Daly, or does he try and take Marcus Smith, who's on overs? And Finn Smith, and this is like just the subtleties of it, he pumps the ball. So as he gets the ball out the back of Slady, he just cocks the ball to his hip, pumps, so basically a dummy, but it's only like a little pump, and he does 2 little pumps, and all he's doing is making LBB make a decision. And he's thinking like pump, and he follows Marcus Smith on the outside, and then Finn Smith does the rest, leaving a lovely little shoulder ball up for Elliot Daly, who scores. So England nailed it, and it's a stock play, but they just ran it perfectly. All comes back from the turnover that Curry got, the maul set up, which allows England to get momentum. It sucks in the French defenders. England get 12 opposite 12, and then that stock players just ran very, very precisely.
A shout out to the Curry boys, but especially Tom Curry, who was world class. The Sage Insight said he has 11 tackles, 2 turnovers, and 8 carries, which is massive in a game like that. And those turnovers came at key points, and I thought he was outstanding. I think Tom Willis as well, on his first start, he did. I think, he's probably unfair because he's been really good for Sarries, but I think the expectation was, oh my God, he's just going to like bust open world rugby. But Tom Willis, I think, was solid. He did this really nice. He's a bit like Aldrit in some regards, and the fact that he gets over a ball, he just does everything really well. Say he can, whether he's cleaning the breakdown or jackling the breakdown or just carrying, making 2-3 yards, little offloads, like he does that really well. And I think that was he fitted that England back row really, nicely, and added to the game and added to the balance there in that back row.
For all the love of England, we've got to talk about France mistakes, because we can't deny that they left the door open for England at times. And France offload a lot. So therefore, in those conditions, you're going to see the odd ball drop down more than often. And you look at the Sage Insights, like they had 19 handling errors. But it's where they made these errors, which is just kind of bonkers. They would have arguably scored, I would say, one of the tries of the tournament, when Penno quick tapped and off they went, and he tapped it and you're thinking, what are they doing? And then they suddenly put width on it, and the way they go, and then of course final pass is to Dupont, who drops it.
The final pass that's 80 metres up the field, he drops it.
Yeah, literally. They did all that passing, and then they squander the last one. But there was a shed load of them. And you said, Coley, like the one that LBB rips Marcus, off he goes, slight home, works across, forcing him to step inside and come up with a play. And then Malfaka drops that one as well.
How much I love Damien Penaud. He dropped probably at least 3 in the first half, a couple of which could have been try scoring. I think he butchers another one in the second half. Even their try, LBB's try in the 74th minute, whatever it is, Penaud pretty much butchers that by...
I mean, how they made hard work of that, didn't they?
He could have just passed it, and there's like 4 Frenchmen on the line. But he carries inside, gets tackled, and there's like, yeah, well done, Damien.
The other thing I'd say is England are still a little bit vulnerable, mate, on the edges, because that one where Dupont wriggles out, he gets it, he drops it in the backfield, sort of stumbles, he gets it, he bounces left, he bounces right. England are trying to swarm him, and he just chucks it over top to Penno, who then obviously does that grubber, who, as we said, a couple of dodgy, maybe forward passes in there. But there's a 6-man overlap, and he steps inside and gets tackled, and you're thinking, what are they doing? Like, how good for us? But you're thinking, what are they doing? They then sling it wide. I think it goes through someone's legs, who then flicks it one-handed. They just about pick it up and score. And I was thinking, like they've squandered so many chances, but of course they've scored with sort of 4 minutes to go to, finally got over it and like bloody made one stick.
Even trying the first half, they kind of like going through the hands and stuff. Then the hooker Malvaka just decides to be really like smart and just pulls it out his arse and throws it on the floor. And it's like he just throws it on the floor, and then I say thankfully Dupont is there to pick it up and like send it wide, and they play down the edge and kick it through Bielbarré. But you're like, I'm not gonna lie, there were signs of that as well from the French at the end of that game against Wales, when like I think Cyril Bay and other boys like flicking out the back when they're 40 points up. You're like, you're 40 points up, fair enough, but maybe just kill the game. And I thought, yeah, French probably came to this game a little bit loose. I'm not saying that's the reason they knocked the ball on, but there were times when it's a bit like, oh, we'll just score. And I think sometimes as well, there are games where we've had it ourselves in our career, where because it's like, oh, we'd have scored there if we didn't knock it on. And the next time you go, it's like, you knock it on and you kind of like, because you're creating chances, you think you're all right and you think you'll just win the game because one of them will stick. One of them will stick and we'll score, and then we'll score another one and we'll score another one. And you keep getting them wrong. You keep getting it wrong. And it's kind of like, and you get to 60 minutes into the game and England are in the game and it's like, well, we should be fucking 40 points ahead because we should have caught all these balls. And then you don't. And then you're in the mess. And then you get to the end of the game and you're like, fuck. Because, and you'll be kicking yourself. They're kicking yourself in some regards today, but they don't have themselves to blame. And yeah, it was, I actually wrote in my notes, it got to that, I think the 74th minute. No, it was the 60th minute try. I think, is it Penaud's try?
Yeah, Penaud scores.
It's like, oh, the French have decided to catch 60 minutes into the game, because that's where they go like, the man off the bench carries, they go pass, offload. You're like, oh my God, this is French rugby, but it's taking you 60 minutes to like catch. And if you do that, you'll lose games of rugby, and you have done. So, but England, taking another way from England, England did what they needed to do, and they capitalised on those errors and they won. And that's Test match rugby, isn't it? So we said before in the autumn about, hit the post, it deflects the other way, or catch kick off. Today the French couldn't catch till 60 minutes into the game. If they convert one of those chances, yeah, they probably win the game, but they didn't. And England actually had opportunities. Even like you look at England missed kicks at goal. England, I think Marcus knocks the ball on 5 metres out. So yeah, but that's Test match rugby, and that's the game. And even I'll go back to, we talk about French knock-ons, but like Dupont gets stripped by Curry. It's a great strip, sort of 5 metres from the own goal line in the first part of the second half, and kind of stuff like that, and that kills your momentum. But that's England's dogging us, staying in the fight and just playing what they've got and capitalise on it. And full credit to England, because it's a victory they deserved, and you will relish that for some time.
Finally, Coley, question from Lisa. Do you both feel vindicated for praising England's performance against Ireland last week when it seemed like everyone else wrote them off?
No, because I don't feel a need for vindication. But do I feel that sometimes, we said about the narrative earlier, it's sometimes be very negative around the England team, and actually it's not all negative. They are performance away. There are people working hard behind the scenes and on the field, and we've been in those environments, so we know what it's like. So actually, I think to try and bring some of that knowledge that we have out there, it's sort of letting people understand that there are, how the team feel, but also it's not all bad, because there is actually positives out there, and it's very easy to forget that sometimes after a loss, and especially with the narrative of people just hurling stuff on the team. And I think, I feel vindicated in some regards. We did a good job last week, I think, of bringing balance to the performance and actually showing people what England were trying to do. And I think we'll do the same again this week and carrying forward doing it.
Well done, England. Delighted. Leave a comment below if you want to get involved. Give us your thoughts, and thank you so much for listening.